Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we start to play. Steelers by the lake, with the word to say. James Strong, Cody Tanner, hosts on the mic. About to dive in deep, keep it live, that's right.
Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-host Cody Tanner. Cody, how are you on this fine Friday evening?
James, I am doing all right. It has been a week, and we're here to talk about Steelers football again. James, excited to talk about Monday Night Football. We were debating on recording tomorrow to kind of get more injury updates, but we're going to stick with today as that was when we were scheduled to record. And so we'll give you kind of guys the updates on injuries with where they're at as far as Friday at 5 o'clock, pretty much. But before we go into any of that crazy stuff, James, how are you?
Doing all right, buddy. We're getting through. So,
yes, sir.
Looking forward to another Steelers game and a big matchup versus what should be an easy opponent, but will it be? We're going to discuss that.
Yeah, 100%. Before we talk,
first things first,
yes.
Right? Some injury news, some moving and shaking on the roster like usual. Unfortunately, the injury to Montravius Adams was a little more significant than anyone realized. Bad enough to put him to the injured reserve. So he will no longer be available for at least the next 4 weeks to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The move that was corresponding to that, they promoted cornerback CJ Henderson from the practice squad up to the 53-man roster. So CJ is going to be available to us this Sunday. He's a former first-round number 9 overall pick.
Yeah.
So very high pedigree, just hasn't really worked out so far in his NFL career. The replacement at the position will be Braden Fehoko, who was injured in the preseason, placed on injured reserve, came off of the injured reserve, has been kind of available. Now he's on the practice squad, so there's a chance he'll be an elevation on game day, but I'll update you on that on the TikTok that I will do about an hour before the game typically.
Yep. Yeah, so that's very interesting. And CJ Henderson obviously drafted to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then in his second year, I believe he was then traded to the Carolina Panthers or somewhere. He was most recently with the Carolina Panthers. And so 3 interceptions on his career that he's been in the league for about 6 years now. This is his 7th year, so very interesting to see. It's interesting that they bring up another corner with the way that the depth chart, I mean, unless something's going on with Dante Jackson, we'll obviously get into the injury report and stuff like that. But that was a weird move for me personally to see that after we saw what Beanie Bishop did last week, and the depth that we have there. But very interesting. So
I would say not as surprising to me because I felt like James Pierre as a corner was not very good last week.
That's fair.
So if something happens to Dante Jackson again, or even if you're in those dime packages and you want a 4th corner available, you might get better play at the corner position from CJ Henderson than you do as James Pierre. He's an excellent gunner, just never been a good cover guy, really.
That is fair. We have some Hall of Fame updates as well. So Gary Anderson, Hines Ward, and James Harrison, all 3 of those guys make the cut to the semifinals, which is 50 people for the Hall of Fame. Now, don't get too excited. That's 3 guys that could very easily get snubbed again. So we'll see how this goes. Elsie Greenwood, shockingly, and Andy Russell do not make the semifinal list of 31 for the senior Hall of Fame candidates. So very interesting there. Elsie Greenwood has been passed up and passed up and passed up. I don't know how many years it's been for him now, but hopefully he gets in there. I thought it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, he played on the 70s team, so
yeah,
you're talking a good 40 years of eligibility, basically. In part of this, you have to wonder if this is still that anti-Steeler bias where there's an understanding that a decent number of Hall of Fame voters have stated that they will no longer vote for any more players from those 70 teams, regardless of whether they deserve it or not.
Which is crazy.
Honestly, anybody that makes that kind of statement should be removed from the voting process.
Yep.
Like, if you won't do it just because they played for a certain team, you're not unbiased. You don't qualify.
Period. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm excited for Gary Anderson, Hines Ward, and James Harrison. I'm definitely more excited for Hines Ward and James Harrison because I watched them play. And again, Hines Ward has been snubbed so many times, but we will see what happens. In other news, more recent with the Steelers currently now, Tyler Matakevich did return to practice. So he does start his 21-day window to return to the 53-man roster. Tyler Matakevich coming off of the IR. And then also, James, Pittsburgh went out and got a wide receiver. Listen, we've seen all these wide receivers go places. Devontae Adams to the Jets. You have now DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs. We also recently saw, who was it?
Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper got traded from the Browns to, I don't even remember where he went.
The Buffalo Bills.
Sure, the Bills. Yeah, that's true because he got a touchdown his first game.
Got a touchdown first game. Yep.
So Pittsburgh's still, quote unquote, looking for that true number 2 wide receiver. But we went out and signed a wide receiver to the practice squad by the name of Andy Isabella. Most people who know him are really either big fans of the Arizona Cardinals or play Madden a lot because he was fast on Madden. I mean, that's it. There's not a whole lot of stats for him that I'm aware of as far as good stats, but he is now on the practice squad. So that's where we're at.
Yep. So a little bit more depth kind of fits the stereotype of what Pittsburgh brought into the team this year in the offseason as far as fast dudes. That was the MO. Scotty Miller, Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins were all fast dudes. Quez obviously did not stick around with the team. Somebody tell the creators of Madden that, because at week 8 they still don't have that figured out. But outside of that, Andy Isabella kind of a similar mold to Scotty Miller.
Yeah, Andy Isabella in the league now for 7 years, has 3 career touchdowns, and none of them coming in the last 5 years. So that's interesting. Very interesting. But again, this is adding depth to an already, in my opinion, deep wide receiver room. So we'll see what happens there. But now it's time to look forward to the New York Giants game on Monday Night Football. This is the second New York team we're facing in just as many weeks. Last week was the Jets. This week is the Giants. And hopefully we get as dominant of a win, if not more dominant. So, James, like we always do, we're going to go over the injury report, talk about the depth chart. We'll share our 3 keys to success in defeating the New York Giants and our score predictions. My score prediction was not there last week, and that's fine. I'll take it.
Mine either.
Yours was close for a little bit, and then they blew it out of the water. So we'll take that. But, James, let's go over this injury report real quick. I'll do the Pittsburgh Steelers per usual, and you'll go over the Giants injury list. So number 1 on the list for us is wide receiver Roman Wilson dealing with a hamstring injury. He was able to come play for 1 game, very limited in that game, and then he's been do not participate all week so far with practices Thursday and Friday. Again, we don't have practices for tomorrow yet because when they play on Monday, they will practice on Saturday. I don't expect Roman Wilson to go. Roman Wilson will probably be inactive again. DeMonte KZ, the safety, dealing with an ankle injury. He's been full participant all week so far. I expect him to go. Deshaun Elliott, dealing with a back injury, didn't participate on Thursday, limited Friday. I do expect him to go with a full participation on Saturday. Cornerback Dante Jackson, dealing with that shoulder injury that he suffered last week against the Jets, but full participant all week long. I expect him to go. Tyler Matakevich, again, limited all week with that hamstring. Nick Herbig with his hamstring hasn't participated yet this week. Don't expect him to play. Same thing with Zach Frazier, dealing with his ankle injury. Very unfortunate, but hoping to get him back up and rolling here in the next few weeks. The fact that he's not on IR is exciting. To that they feel that he can potentially come back in the next few weeks is very, very good in my opinion. Dylan Cook, offensive tackle, dealing with a foot injury. Fully participated Thursday and Friday. We expect him to go. Cordarrelle Patterson dealing with an ankle injury. Limited so far this week. Not sure if they'll have him suit up or not. Especially with the the running back room, the way that we've seen them play so far, getting Jalen Warren back as well. Keanu Benton listed as a calf injury, limited on Thursday, full participant Friday. Expect him to play. And then you have 2 non-injury related resting days for Cameron Hayward and Isaac Siamalu. Both of them looks like they didn't participate the last 2 days, but they'll probably practice on Saturday and be good to go. So.
Yeah, one quick side note on this with Dylan Cook. He still is in that 21-day window. Is he healthy enough to play? Probably, it looks like it because he's practicing in full, but they'd still have to bring him up. He's not been activated yet. He's still in that window. So unless they decide to activate him and pull somebody else off of the 53, he will not be playing against the Giants. I kind of feel like since they did the CJ Henderson move, that's probably the direction they're going.
Yeah.
So I don't think any new injuries are going to pop up. They're going to put somebody on the IR at this point. A little worrisome with Roman Wilson, then, though. Huh? That was a hamstring in practice last Thursday, I believe, and he's been a no-go ever since. So hopefully that heals up for him over the bye. But it's starting to look like his entire rookie season might be robbed of him due to injuries of no fault of his own. So frustrating for that young man, I'm sure, and for the fan base as well, because we'd love to see him out there. Haven't had a true significant impact at the number 2 wide receiver position yet. He was supposed to help contribute to that, but tough to do when you're injured.
Yeah.
So
Literally has played in 1 game so far.
Yeah. And it was, I think, 5 offensive snaps in that game too.
Yep.
So yeah, that's not great. On to not great things also, but New York Giants style here. So their injury list, pretty long list here. First guy, Cordale Flott, is a cornerback. He's got a groin injury. He was limited in practice, was a do not participate Thursday, so he's trending in the right direction. That is difficult for any football player with a groin injury, but a corner that's even worse. So hopefully he's matched up against our quick dudes like Calvin Austin, who can juke him up and leave him in the dust. Their punter, Jamie Gillum, has a hamstring injury and will not practice. Has not practiced the last 2 days. I'm going to guess they probably have another punter ready to go, because if he's not practicing at all, he's probably not going to be good to go. A hamstring would be something that makes it very difficult to punt, if not completely impossible. So probably more important than the fact that it's a backup punter that might be playing, might be a backup holder that could play into things very importantly for the Steelers. Defensive back Trey Hawkins, also a corner, has an ankle. He's been limited in practice, was a DNP on Thursday. So he's trending in the right direction for them. Adoree Jackson's out with a neck injury. Don't expect him to play. Looks like he's been missing a significant amount of time at this point. Their dominant defensive tackle, Dexter Lawrence, has a hip injury and is a do not participate in practice on the 1 day, and they all have that listed the second day as hip.
Yep.
Hip injury and hip as far as his participation.
Whatever.
So I don't know if he's trending in the right direction. I'm assuming he's going to play because I don't know if he's missed any time yet.
Yeah,
and has been wrecking havoc.
Yep.
Next guy on the list, linebacker Ty Summers with an ankle. He did not participate in practice either of the last 2 days. Brian Burns, the edge rusher, has a groin and an Achilles injury going on. Also has not been practicing. Wide receiver Bryce Ford Wheaton also has an Achilles, but is full, so he must be coming back from that injury. Wide receiver Jalen Hyatt with a rib injury, full participant. So he's working his way back as well. And then offensive tackle Jermaine Illuminor with a hip did not participate. Giants reporters indicating they do not feel he will be ready to go by the time Monday Night Football comes. So could be some backup offensive tackle action on TJ's side once again.
Yeah, and that would be fantastic for him. Now it's time to transition over to the depth chart. We'll give you guys the rundown on who's playing for them and at what position, who we need to be watching out for and concerned with. So James, on the offensive side of the ball, quarterback Daniel Jones, I'm not really scared. I don't see him.
Do not be concerned.
Should not be concerned in the slightest. Backup Drew Lock if he comes in, not concerned in the slightest. Backup to the backup Tommy DeVito if he comes in, not concerned in the slightest. Let's clarify. We're not worried about the wide receiver room, the quarterback room for this team. That's not saying they can't make any plays. That's not saying to not take them seriously. We're just not overly concerned with what they can do. Daniel Jones, ironically, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL right now, on the year has 4 interceptions to 6 touchdowns. Nothing too crazy. And he hasn't thrown a touchdown in the last 2 weeks. And most of his touchdowns came against either the early Commanders, which when they were struggling, the Browns, which have been struggling the whole time, and most recently against the Seahawks in a shootout that he had with them. So
yeah, and the fan base is crying for Drew Lock. They want to see Drew Lock at the point. So fan base is giving up on Daniel Jones, which is a bad sign for
throw
him.
Drew in. He'll get sacked just as much. Looking at the running back room, you have Devin Singletary, a capable running back. Again, he spent most of his career so far with the Buffalo Bills, now in New York. Eric Gray listed as a backup. Wide receiver room, you have Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, and Wandell Robinson all listed as starters, as well as Malik Neighbors. So they have 4 guys listed as starters. Technically, Robinson's the slot, or potentially even Neighbors. I'm not sure how they're running that. And then they have a couple guys listed at backup positions as well that may not even see playing time. And then tight end room, Daniel Bellinger. He's a decent tight end. He doesn't have a lot of good quarterback play to get good stats off of. And then also Theo Johnson listed as a backup there. And then finally that offensive line, James, we already talked about the right tackle, Jermaine Illuminor, probably going to be out. Backup is Evan Neal. And then right guard, Greg Van Rotten. I know it's row 10, but whatever. Center, John Michael Schmitz Jr., left guard, John Runyon, and left tackle, Joshua Azuda. Not the greatest offensive line, which was why Saquon Barkley left.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got a few things that are a little bit different listing here. I'm on the ESPN site instead of the New York Giants. They've got Theo Johnson as the starting tight end, and they got Jalen Hyatt as one of the backups, not one of the 3 listed starters.
Interesting.
Also, this indicates the normal starting left tackle is Andrew Thomas and is on the injured reserve.
Okay, so that makes more
So
sense.
that's something we were digging for and could not find. So it will be quite likely both backup offensive tackles, which has been a nightmare, I understand, so far for them. So on the defensive side, you'll have to let me know if you have different on your listing, because it looked like I had a few differences on my side here. The defense runs a 3-4. Their nose tackle, Dexter Lawrence. We talked about him with the injury. He's going to play. He's leading the entire NFL in sacks with 9 right now, which is unheard of for a nose tackle / defensive tackle like him. So just a very dominant performance for him so far this year. He's always been good, but it's going to be a very difficult test for the interior trio this week, especially with our practice squad center starting for us, Ryan McCollum. So Ryan's really going to have his hands full. Defensive ends, I've got Raheem Nunez-Roches and Elijah Chapman at the starting positions here. The linebacker core, weak side linebacker, they've got Brian Burns, but he's injured. So it could be Tommy Fox starting. Inside linebackers, Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden, with both Ty Summers and Darius Mahasu backing them up. And then the strong side linebacker, Aziz Ojolari, with Patrick Johnson backing him up. So some high quality edge rushers, but Burns banged up. So you might only really have to worry a little bit more about the strong side. So hopefully he goes up against Dan Moore, because Broderick Jones has just been struggling so far this year. Into the secondary we go. The starting corners listed here, Nick McLeod, Deontay Banks, with the nickel back being Drew Phillips. Starting safeties, Tyler Nubin and Jason Pinnock. So a lot of injuries going on secondary here as well. So we'll see how that impacts things for them. Also hearing some rumors about Deontay Banks maybe having the possibility of being benched for lack of effort on the defensive side. This coming from a Giants reporter also. So
very interesting.
Something to look for. There's some definitely some dissension amongst the ranks there if they're thinking about benching a starting corner.
Yeah, a little bit. And just to put in perspective before we finish this going over this depth chart with the special teams, in their last 2 games, they put up 10 combined points on that offense. So
were those both home games?
Both of them were home games.
One of the things that I heard them say was that Daniel Jones hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in New York Giants Stadium yet this year. All his passes have been away games.
That's unfortunate and concerning all at the same time.
But at the same point in time, we're 7 games into the season. What was it? 6 touchdowns?
6.
So,
and he had 2 in each of those away games. You're correct.
Yeah.
Maybe the fans need to show some more support. I don't know.
He needs to get out of New York for him to have a good career now, apparently.
Maybe. Looking at their special teams, long snapper Casey Kretler, holder and punters listed as Jamie Gillian, but again, listed on that injury. Matt Hack is the backup for both those positions. Punt returner is Amir Smith Marset. He's one of the wide receivers. And then kickoff return is Eric Gray. Those are the guys listed there. And then Greg Joseph as the kicker. So nothing too crazy there. No names that are really concerning.
A side note for you here, I have Graham Gano is there. So this is the backup kicker for the Giants.
Okay.
Not this normal starting kicker. And as you indicated, they've got another punter on the roster, Matt Hawk.
Yep.
So if Jamie Gillen is unable to go,
well, Jamie Gillen hasn't played the last 2 games, so I'm assuming he's just going to stay not going at this point.
Most likely not going to play. They're calling him questionable, but I think that's more of a doubtful.
Yeah. So nothing too crazy there, James. It's time for 3 keys to success. Go ahead. It's your week to go first and share your 3 keys to success in leaving Monday Night Football with a dub against the New York Giants.
All right, buddy. I got some fun themed ones for you today.
Oh, so do
my
I.
first one.
So do I.
All right. I like it. Key number 1, double team Dexter. Dexter Lawrence is the baddest man on the defensive line in the entire. We have a 4th string center starting in this game in Ryan McCollum. So it is exceedingly important that you know where he is at all times. Double team him in the run game, double team him in the pass game. If he's one-on-one with Ryan McCollum or even Mason McCormick or Isaac Seumalo, it may not go very well. So we absolutely need to know exactly where he is and account for him with a second player or a running back to help up or something. One-on-one probably won't go well with him.
No, definitely not.
Number 2. Pound it to Pickens.
Pound it to Pickens.
Pound it to Pickens. I want to see 6 catches and 100+ yards for George Pickens this week. I think their secondary is a secondary that he could easily do it. Not a top tier group as far as the cornerback position. Even the safety group, I know the one Tyler Nubin, I think he's a rookie. Jason Pinnock doesn't really strike fear into the hearts of men either.
Nope.
So I think this is definitely a secondary that you could do that with. So I think Russ is going to go there early and often as far as George Pickens, and he should. My third and final key, I want to see 3+ sacks from Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt combined. Just those 2 gentlemen. I think it's a great opportunity with the injuries to their offensive tackle position. They can't chip and double team on both sides at the same time. There's just not enough guys on the offense passing plays with 2 receivers out there. Granted, they have a very dangerous number receiver who's having an excellent season so far with Malik Neighbors.
Yep.
That being set aside, I think we should see a lot of sacks from these guys. TJ finally may be getting an opportunity this week to not be double teamed on every play with how Alex played last week.
Very nice. James, I like those 3 keys. I got 3 keys as well. My 3 keys are going to seem like a lot more than 3 keys, but they're 3 keys, I promise you.
All right.
So my 3 keys to success are the first one is utilize our 3 giants on offense, which in my mind, utilize Darnell Washington because he's a giant. Utilize Najee Harris because he's a giant running through that hole. And utilize George Pickens because there's no one that can get up like a giant as high as he can on those deep balls. Those are my 3 keys to success. Like just my first key is utilize those 3 offensive giants. Second key, 2 defensive giants. I want to see TJ Watt get some pressure and some sacks. And I want to see, and you might question this one a little bit. I want to see Minka with a pick. I want to, like, that's a combined defensive strategy for my second key to success is utilize the 2 defensive giants in Minka and TJ Watt. They're outside of Cam Hayward. They're the 2 highest paid deep players on the defense. And then last but not least, have an unknown or current name giant in the special teams make a play. I don't care if it's Jalen Warren with a kick return. I don't care if it's a punt return. I don't care if it's someone getting a special teams block. Have one big momentum changing play on special teams again. That way I can see the coach lose his mind again. It was fantastic. It's fantastic. Did you know that he can't lift his arms up?
Over his head? Yeah, I saw
I
that.
didn't know that. I didn't know
that. Did you see why?
Yeah, because he didn't get surgery after that hit on the sideline. That's
Because he
crazy.
didn't want to miss any games.
He didn't want to miss a
coaching.
game. Now he can't do this. It's this. That's hysterical. And just awesome to kind of hear that story. The special teams coach can't say field goals good. So I know my 3 keys to success were a little wonky, but I wanted to utilize the Giants there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wordplay.
Absolutely. So on to the score predictions part of the game today. Cody, I am going to go first this week, and I've got a big score for Pittsburgh.
Wait, I want to write mine down before you say yours. That way there's a chance it's not.
Just in case it's the same.
Just in case.
Let's hope it isn't. But I'm going Pittsburgh 30.
No, it's
New York
not
Giants.
Different. Or it is different.
New York Giants 10.
30-10.
30-10. I think big win for Pittsburgh this week. And I don't know. I just think the offense is going to continue rolling and the defense is pretty stingy.
You ready for mine?
Yep.
44-13.
Whew. Holy crap, Cody. You must really have a lot of faith in Wilson.
I have a faith in it. I have a no.
Got him.
I
got him, guys. I got him.
If our defense can destroy the Giants the way that they've allowed themselves to be destroyed, and our offense can do anything, there's no reason 44 points shouldn't be achievable, in my opinion. Now, that also comes with points early and often. I don't think that we're going to be putting up the score in the second half like we did this past game. Again, I think 9 times out of 10, Najee doesn't run that football into the end zone. He kneels down, whatever. But that team got their swag back last week. That team got a little bit emotional and hyped up for themselves last week. And I kind of expect it to roll over into this week as they take on another team at home in another primetime game.
I bet you if Najee gets any more of those opportunities the rest of the year, he takes every single one of them. Should.
Yep.
He should.
Yep.
He should. He needs to get as many touchdowns as he can and be a little bit greedy
on a
this
contract year. Absolutely.
It's a contract year. Yep. He needs to, because if Pittsburgh isn't going to pay him, he needs to put up big numbers so somebody else is forced to.
Yep. I hope we do, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, at this stage I do as well.
And see, both of us, even when he was drafted, James, I remember us talking about it, and you're like, he's an older running back. We probably won't see him get a second deal. They'll probably pick up the 5th year, which was a thing we thought, but he probably won't get that second deal. And and he has shown he's been loyal, he's been consistent, even though I've bashed on him. And healthy. I've bashed on him a bit, but I've definitely always bashed on the offensive line not making holes for him more than I have bashed on him. And so if this offensive line can continue to improve and he can continue to put up numbers, go put up numbers, baby. I hope we pay you, but if not, somebody else for sure will. So,
yeah, absolutely.
But with that being said, that's what you got for me, James. You got something.
A couple things. So next week, we're going to do the recap show on Wednesday due to the Monday night game to look out for us. Also, the following week being a bye week, I've got some show concepts. So we're going to go back and we're going to go check our preseason predictions and see where that's tracking so far. We'll also get you another update on where Deontay Johnson versus Dante Jackson is going so far this season.
Last I knew it was 3-3. We'll see what's going on there.
Yeah.
Super excited
for that. We got
some
stuff. We'll still get shows. It just won't be twice that week. That's all.
Twice next week? Oh, yeah, because it's a bye week.
Yeah, no point.
No, but with that being said, we can't thank you guys enough for listening or watching. If you're on YouTube, remember to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, of course. Subscribe, ring the bell. It's free. It doesn't cost you a freaking thing. Don't forget the 5-star reviews on a podcast. Make this guy here very, very happy. And oh my Lanta, we got Steelers football this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. This is James and Cody signing off.
Peace.